So I was at a low point. It was Philadelphia in 1979, the summer after my senior year in college. And the problem was I couldn't graduate yet because I still had to finish this bullshit independent study project. So I'm there in the summertime. I was living in this rundown, depressing sublet with torn window shades and a doorbell that didn't work. But that was okay because all my friends had already left town, so nobody was going to visit me anyway. And, it was kind of this depressing thing. At night, I would spend my time listening to Philadelphia sports radio on a transistor radio, which is about as bleak as it gets. And in the daytime, my independent project was going very poorly because I was procrastinating, and instead of working on it, I was sitting on a bench in the middle of campus next to a statue of Ben Franklin, and I'd be reading what I thought were these really cool, impressive books. And I thought people would see me, and I'd hold them up like this, and I thought people would see me and they'd think, oh, wow, look at that really cool guy reading those cool books. And my ultimate fantasy is that I would hear this voice saying, oh, what are you reading? And I'd lower the book, and it'd be this beautiful woman, and we'd have this summer romance, kind of like the movie Grease. So that didn't happen until one day it kind of did. I'm reading this book called Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon, which is this iconic counterculture novel, 800 pages, with the New York Times described as bone-crushingly dense. And all of a sudden I hear this voice, oh, what are you reading? And I lower the book, and it's this very striking Japanese woman about my age. And she has this look on her face of total interest in what I'm going to say. So I say, oh, it's Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. And she says, what's it about? Now, I didn't know what it was about. So I read the blurb on the back of the book. It said, an immense synthesis of modern literature and modern science. And she says, oh, that sounds really interesting. And then she says, have you ever felt lost, like you have no direction in life? And I said, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. And she told me that her name was Mashiko, and when she was growing up in Japan, she felt lost. But then she met these people that just turned her life around, and she was reborn. Now, I want to just stop right now and say I may have been an idiot, but I wasn't stupid. And I knew that there was this religious cult trolling the campus for depressed college students. So we talked a little bit more. She was nice. We chatted, and then she asked me two questions. She said, will you come to our house for dinner tonight? And I said, no. And then she asked me for my phone number and address. And for some reason, I gave it to her. And then she went off. And I had this moment of very harsh self-realization, because I knew these people had these built-in loser detectors, and they could sense the despair and the self-loathing. They could smell that sweet whiff of failure. And that was me. I was the low-hanging fruit. So over the next week or two, she's on this relentless campaign to get me to come to their house for dinner, and she's calling me on the phone, and she wrote me a letter, and I keep saying no, no, no. And things are getting progressively more depressing. And so finally, I'm looking at another night of it's 95 degrees outside, and another night of listening to Philadelphia sports radio, and I think, what the hell, I'll just go. Maybe it'll, it's just something to do. So I start walking to their house, and I'm getting more and more nervous. And, I'm thinking, oh, what if they put sedatives in the food, and I'll wake up on a farm in Pennsylvania and never see my family again. Although on the plus side, I wouldn't have to do my independent study, so that was, So I get there, and this was the late 70s, so cults were a really big deal back then, really, really scary. So I get there, the house is well lit, I go in, and everybody is really nice and friendly and welcoming, and there's all these people around my age, and I'm thinking, wow, this isn't so bad. And someone takes out a guitar, and they start singing songs, and it's not like these weird cult songs, it's Michael rowed the boat ashore, and, songs like the songs that I knew, and it's oh, this is okay. So we're all sitting around in a circle, and Mashiko was sitting next to me, and she's beaming, she's so happy that I came. And each new person is accompanied by a handler of the opposite sex. And we have to go around the room and we have to introduce ourselves, say our name and our favorite drink, only it can't be alcoholic. So they get to me and I say, my name's Len and my favorite drink is, I don't know, tea. And they're like, oh, tea, we love tea. Tea is so great. and someone says, well, what kind of tea do you like? Is it ginseng or chamomile or Earl Grey? And I say, I don't know, Lipton. And they're like, oh, Lipton, we love Lipton, we love Lipton. And so I can smell the smells from the kitchen, and it's like I'm really hungry, and it smells really good, and I haven't had a home-cooked meal in so long. I'm really looking forward to this. And then the vibe kind of changes. This guy comes out, and he's older than everybody else. He's in his 40s, and people address him as the minister. And he's clearly the boss here. He's like in charge of this house. And he announces that we're going to go in for some physical nourishment for our meal, but first we're all going to go upstairs for some spiritual nourishment. And then he goes around to each new person and introduces himself. So he comes up to me and he says, so are you a student at the university? And I say, yeah. He says, oh, what's your major? And I say, applied science. He goes, oh, science, that's fantastic. And he says, when we go upstairs, I'm going to prove mathematically and empirically that our leader, the leader of this worldwide cult, is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And I'm like, okay, I look forward to that. So we go upstairs, Michiko's at my side, and we go into this room, and it's festooned with balloons and streamers, and I say, oh, is it somebody's birthday? And she says, no, it's your rebirth day. And in the room, there's a blackboard and rows of chairs. So I sit there, and this minister guy starts this long lecture about their whole ideology. And he's like writing stuff on the blackboard, and there's like all these lines going all over the place. It's very convoluted. And meanwhile, the room is always packed because their members are constantly cycling in and out, so that there are no empty. It's kind of like the seat fillers at the Academy Awards. And so then he gets to the part where he's going to prove that their leader is the second coming of Jesus Christ. So he draws two timelines on the blackboard. The top timeline is from the beginning of the world to the birth of Jesus, and the second timeline underneath that is Jesus until the birth of their leader, which is like in the 1930s. And then he draws a straight line at the end of both timelines, like perpendicular. And he's like, so that's what proved. That's the empirical proof. So I say, well, if I can ask a question, the world is like billions of years old, so that those timelines don't really match up. And he says, well, we don't believe that the world is billions of years old. We believe it's 10,000 years old. So it's creationism. And I say, well, it's still like 10,000 versus 2,000. And he keeps like drawing that perpendicular line up and down, like see. So then the dinner bell rings. It's time for dinner, and he says, we're going to go down for dinner, but you, pointing to me, I'd like you to stay here a little longer because you need a little bit more spiritual nourishment. So everybody leaves except me, him, and two other guys. And Michiko, she's gone. She's disappeared. And we're talking more about these timelines, and I say, and I guess I'm being a smart ass, I say, so is the top timeline on a logarithmic scale? And he looks at me, he kind of sighs, and he says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You have to leave right now. And the two other guys in the room escort me out of the house. And one of the guys turns to me with this big friendly smile on his face and says, you must be a minister of Satan. But we like that because it makes us stronger. I'm like, thank you very much. I'm happy to oblige. So I go back out into the 95-degree Philadelphia summer night, go back to my rundown, depressing, yet deluxe sublet, which befits the minister of Satan. And at first I feel triumphant that I made this big escape from this cult. But then I thought, what have I really accomplished? Absolutely nothing. And then I realized what I needed to escape was this situation I was in, to actually do what I needed to do to graduate. And the only way I could do that is to finish my independent study. And so that's what I did. Thank you.